In today's video, I want to talk about how much money do WordPress businesses make. So I wanted to focus on very small, micro-sized WordPress agencies that make websites for clients, focusing particularly on single-person side hustle type businesses where they only have the one staff, which is themselves, and they do everything themselves, and maybe explore a little bit what happens when you scale up to a larger team, but keep the focus small, and let's see what the actual data says about running a small WordPress agency. So one of the WordPress blogs that I follow, called the Admin Bar, published a really great survey of 321 small WordPress agencies and figured out how much revenue they are getting per year and how much revenue they get per project. So this is really great data. I'm going to put a link to that research in the description, so make sure you check that out. Shout out to the Admin Bar for doing this great work. I'm going to go through some of the data myself and take out some of the key things that I think are important here. Straight away, we can see the pricing ballpark. Most WordPress websites are priced between $2,500 and $5,000. Now, this data is mostly focused on North American markets, so fairly wealthy countries. You'd have to scale that depending on your local economy, but that is the ballpark. And the lowest is sort of in that 100 to 1,000 range. The highest is quite healthy 5-figure type websites. So big range, but most of them are in that $2,500 to $5,000 bracket. The thing I found very interesting here is that out of the survey, 56% that reported their revenue, they were single person freelancers, no other staff. So 56% of these people making that much money are working by themselves. Most of these are, you could describe them as side hustles or micro businesses. And I think the average team was around 2 or 3 people. So very small focused, small business. Medium revenue was in 50 to 100K per year. So 50 to 100K per year, at that median website price, we can assume that people are doing about 20 website projects per year and to get that revenue. So I think that's comforting to know that a single person doing a comfortable number of websites per year in one of these type of countries can probably make a pretty comfortable middle class living just doing their WordPress sites. So that's good to know. One other thing that was quite interesting that I wasn't really aware of was 82% of the people surveyed here provide web hosting as well as the website. So when people didn't provide web hosting, that was only common on the cheaper websites. So I think if you want to get those bigger tier projects and charge multiple thousands or 5 figures for a project, you really need to be able to provide web hosting as well. So on the channel, we cover a lot of web hosting methods and self-hosting methods as well. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit the subscription button and check out some of my web hosting videos as well. But let's carry on with this data. Now, this chart shows the distribution of annual revenue. So while I said that the median was in that 50 to 100K range, what we see is actually a lot of people are in the 0 to 49K range. I'll explain why I think that is in a minute, but we can see that it is possible to get some very healthy 6-figure revenues, even 7 figures there, 1.3% of people in that 7-figure bracket. But I believe that when people are starting out in their first 1, 2, 3 years, you'll generally find yourself in this 0 to 49K range. I'm going to explain why I think it takes time to grow this, because I think it's a little surprising. And the other surprising data that we found was it's actually fairly simple to get started in these types of businesses, because a lot of these businesses are using very simple WordPress page builders to construct their projects. So Elementor, Beaver Builder, and Divi, all quite user-friendly to use. They're point-and-click graphic interfaces where you don't need to use any code or custom scripting. Very simple. So I was quite surprised by that. I would have thought that a lot of companies would be using at least blocks like Generate blocks or Cadence blocks, or even doing their own custom templating, custom PHP. So there is a bit of that. I would assume that the very high-end projects that are making that solid 5 figures per project would be needing to do their own custom development. But it's comforting to know that you can get involved in this type of an agency without a lot of technical skill. So you can really start with some of the tutorials that we use on this site, and you can actually get started with a small agency without too much work. But if you are interested in learning some of these custom methods that are going to be useful on those high-end, high-budget projects, but you don't have the skills, let's talk about our sponsor today, Skillshare. The Skillshare class that's helped me the most is this one called WordPress Academy by Chris Dixon. There's 85 lessons, 8.5 hours long here. So they really go into the detail of how the PHP behind WordPress actually works, how you can customize it and make things like custom themes. So you can try this for yourself for free. I've got a link in the description. The first 1,000 people to use the link will get a 1 month free trial of Skillshare. So check that out if you're interested. I want to continue to be my own boss, and Skillshare gives us the ability to learn those freelance tips to how to start new side projects, to attract those right clients, and how to start businesses. And my own goals are to improve my skills in web development and to reach new audiences through video. So improving these areas will give me greater control over my career and creative path. So Skillshare is great in these areas. Another class I've been checking out is this one called Build Your Business and Brand, Translating Your Passion into a Plan by Rebecca Minkoff. Now, this one focuses on that issue of going from being a solo business to bringing in a team, building a network, and scaling up. Rebecca's done a really great job and gives an example about how she scaled up right into some very healthy 7-figure revenue. So this is very interesting. Again, link is in the description. The first 1,000 people to use the link will get that first 1 month free trial of Skillshare. But let's get back to our video. So at this point, probably a few of you are excited to go ahead and start your own agency, but here's the catch. I think a lot of these people who did the survey are quite experienced. Experience really does pay off here. The average business, around 8 or 9 years, the median was 8 years of experience to get into that sort of 50 to 100K range. It does take time to build up that revenue. So I'll explain why I think that is. Businesses with 3 years or less had much lower revenue. Only 10% of these 3 years or less businesses were over the 50K revenue. Nearly all are in that 0 to 50K range in the first 3 years. So keep your expectations realistic about what it's going to be like for those first few years. A lot of us will have to have a regular job or jobs to supplement that when you're in that range, especially if you're in a place with high cost of living. It does take time to scale this business sustainably. And the reason it takes time to scale is the lead generation. Most of people get their leads from referrals and networking. This is a very old-fashioned way of growing a business. Referrals means just word of mouth. You do a project for someone, they talk to their coworkers, they talk to their friends, family, and they mention your business, and you grow your business based on that referrals. Networking, same thing. You work with other people and they refer other people back to you. Very similar. So these are often these are offline type of leads. So these happen gradually over years. Now I'll give you some tips about how to actually work on this when you're starting out, because this can be very difficult when you're starting out and you don't have experience. But surprising to see that things like paid ads, cold calling, organic search were a much smaller minority of the lead generation. It is very difficult to actually get search traffic related to web hosting, search traffic related to being a WordPress agency. It's very competitive and very saturated in a lot of markets. So these old-fashioned methods are the most reliable way of growing sustainably. So my tips for starting out here is do some volunteer website work to build up your portfolio. Businesses with a lot of word of mouth, if you volunteer to work with them and make a website, say you've got a local coffee shop, a local barber shop, salons, bars, places where you've got a lot of word of mouth where the owner talks to their customers a lot. This can be quite helpful. Community groups often don't have a website, and if you're able to provide something for your local sports team or your local hobby club type of group, this can be quite nice, and you'll get a lot of goodwill in your community if you volunteer and create websites for these type of places. That will give you very positive word of mouth, and it will lead you to better projects in the future. And while you're doing that, this is great to actually do, but when you're doing this, focus on the wealthier areas of your city. These are the places where business owners live and work and engage with their community. So this is where you're going to pick up that good referral from those areas. It's still great to do this in other areas as well to build your portfolio, but if you want to lead on to valuable projects in the future, I think focusing on wealthy areas of your city is obviously going to be more productive. And one thing I might say is that don't try to compete on price. Often just work for free for those portfolio type projects. Volunteering can actually be less effort than charging a low price. Often people who are charging a low price have very difficult clients. I think volunteering, you'll get nicer clients and less service is expected. When you're giving something away for free, there's much less expectation on you to provide quick updates and things like that. But as soon as you accept a little bit of money, people expect a lot more. So just be careful of that. What you'll find is that volunteering actually will result in a better return on investment for your time input. So just keep that in mind. So in conclusion, building websites with WordPress can make a great side business. It has a low barrier to entry. You don't actually need a lot of technical skill compared to other areas of tech. This is quite a simple one to get started in with a page builder, some basic web hosting, and you can get going and scale up over time. Using Page Builder is still pretty common. I was not expecting that, but it does take a long time to build a good business. Like any business, this is not a quick road to success. Measure your expectations in years, not weeks. I think from here, probably the video you should watch is how to set up some web hosting. So I'll put a couple of my favorite web hosting videos up on the end screen here, but thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.